Talladega Super Speedway, home of the Alabama gang. The place that JD... Wait, is he here? I think we're good. The place where dreams are made. Opened in September of 1969, it's seen Earnhardt, Allison, Edwards all have wild wrecks. It's the track where Bobby Isaac heard voices telling him to get out of the race car in 1974. Talladega is a 2.6-mile superspeedway with 33 degrees of banking in the turns. Ken Rush won the first race in 1969, which also was famous for being protested by most of the famous drivers of the time. Parker Klingerman holds the lap record set in 2019 with a 46.530. Alright guys, so like we've done in the last couple of videos, I'm going to do a walk around Talladega. Most would think it's pretty big, it's pretty wide open. How much is there to really talk about? In my opinion, there's quite a bit, really. Just like Daytona, this place is not flat out. Yeah, you've got, some would call it 4 lanes. I call it 3 to be safe, especially in this car with the way that it floats. But you know, you've got the high banking, which helps this car turn, but keep in mind the setups are tight. That's just the way that they are. It's going to create some weird side draft effect, all sorts of different things around this track. You're going to have insanely high speeds. 220 headed down here into 3 is not out of the ordinary. It's a lot of fun, but you have to be careful, or otherwise you're going to wind up in trouble. I've seen many a top split races turn into just absolute wreck fests. JD McHaley's videos show that in its entirety. So while you can carry a lot of speed around this place, speed is your friend and your enemy, all in the same boat, especially when you get late in the runs with this car. So we'll go ahead and I'll get you walked around here. Okay, so as we come to the start finish line here, it's always a good idea to kind of keep this middle lane through the tri-oval, bring it up towards the wall. It's going to be much the same Daytona style arc. Right about here, you're going to kind of do a little bit of a lift. We're going to let it start to rotate into the bottom with kind of I don't want to say like a late apex, but kind of a lazy apex, if you will. So we bring it right down to the yellow, and you're going to, it depends on where you're at in your run of where you're going to get back into that throttle and kind of start bringing the speed back up to bring it out to the wall here. Early in a run, you can hold it on a lot longer. Later into a run, and I'm talking like 10 laps, it's going to be a little bit later and a little bit later and a little bit later. But then you're going to try and hang this thing on the outside wall. Now, the one thing that you will see if you've watched top splits or any of my streams, you'll see the guys start to go down to the bottom yellow here. I don't like doing that. Let them go to the bottom, because right about here you're going to start lifting anyways and start your rotation back into the bottom. If you try to run the yellow line around this place in this car, your tires are not going to last very long. So do yourself a favor, do the old school NASCAR arc into the corner, arc it out, save that right front as best you can. Because otherwise you're going to wind up popping the wall and wrecking the field, and that's a whole nother thing that most people don't want to deal with. But as you come out of 4 here, you're going to run it back out to the wall. You're going to run the wall for quite a while. Now, you can do 2x2 around this place in this car. It's very easy, not super hard. But if you're by yourself, I don't suggesting bring it all the way to the bottom. I like to leave it about a lane up, maybe half a lane, because there's some bumps right here that will cause the car to go a little funky. And especially in your qualifying, it'll upset you enough to cost you a couple of tenths. So I'm going to go ahead. We're going to do 2 laps around here at speed. So I will get this thing up to speed, and by the time you see me again, we'll be going. All right, so here we go for our first 2 laps. We're going to have her out by the wall here. And since there's nobody in front of me, you can see I could leave it right on the floor and cut it right in. So your qualifying laps and everything you can do just like this. We're going to let it float back out to the wall here. We're going to get it as close as we can to that wall and just hold it. And it'll pick up a little bit more speed the closer you are to that wall. And then just a nice kind of lazy arc down in. Hold the bottom yellow. Let it start to come back out. Now, obviously, if you've got cars to your outside, that sort of thing, you're not going to want to do that. But and then bring it back down for a late arc through the tri-oval. And just like that, we threw down a 46.5. And we're just going to do the same thing again. Now, like I was saying, I would not try to hold that bottom yellow, because after about 10 laps, you're going to see this thing go super crazy, and it's just going to get dumb, and you're not going to have a good time. So, but late in the race, about right here, you'll check up and just kind of let it coast down in. You will feel this car late in the run. It will kind of want to slide off that right rear. As long as you let off a little bit of trail brake into the corner, and then you'll feel the car settle, and you'll be able to rock it right back out of the corner. So keep that in mind as you're running, and you should be all right. Alright guys, so before we get into this, as you can see here, I have a very comical paint scheme on the car today. I lost a bet to JD, so you'll see this paint scheme quite a bit this week at Talladega. So if you see it, poke some fun at it. It was all in good fun, and maybe you'll get a story out of it. But anyway, on to the point of this video. So I have a few key points to take away from before we get into the actual settings that we ran and what we found. So 3 key points. Number 1, it's very easy to overdrive the corner, especially in the draft. What I mean by that is you can have a full head of steam coming down into, say, turn 3 at 200 some odd miles an hour, and if you're too close, you're going to get the guy in front of you loose. So be mindful of that. You have to use the brakes around this place. I don't care who you are. Unless you're in the lead, you will need to use some brake on corner entry. Number 1, to stabilize it and set the chassis, but number 2, so you don't run over the guy in front of you. This whole place is about give and take. Yeah, you can run fast, but if you can't run fast and hold it, it's going to end in a bad way. Late in the run, you will have to let off, especially with the tires getting very, very hot, that sort of thing. Make sure that you're giving enough space that car in front, and if you're the car behind the guy in front of you, figure out his let-off point, where his brake point's going to be at, and you guys will have a really fun race. I've had a lot of green flag races here, shockingly. If everybody's running the way that they should and not full throttling, it'll be a great race. So on to our settings and what we found. So again, as per usual, I went back to the typical 20-lap run to see how this is going to handle. With Talladega, Daytona, it's pretty much the same. The 20-lap run works really well for this. So we went with the 12-to-1 first. It feels really planted, but as the run goes on, it does get looser. It's real hot on that right front, and you'll see what I'm talking about here in a second. But best lap I ran with it was a 46.418. The right front tire wear was 94%, right rear was 92. But we were 302 on the right front tire temp after a 20-lap run, and that's with no cars. We're not in the draft or anything. So that's going to be way hotter as you get more cars around you and you slam it down into the corner. That's why I say letting off late in the run is pretty key, because these things are going to feel like grease after a while, and it's a lot of throttle management. So I don't necessarily like the 302. I think probably once you're in a draft, it's probably going to be closer to 320, 330. I would not be shocked by that. And the track temp was only 86 degrees. So with that in mind, I always like to test a 14-to-1 to see, okay, can we bring those tire temps back down? Does it make it more manageable? And is our tire wear better? All right, so with the 14-to-1, it does feel freer in the wheel. It's less heavy in your hands. It's a little lower on the tire temps on the right side as a whole. My best lap around here was a 46.484. So a touch slower, but I think part of that is just the way I came out of the pits and things like that. So that's why we're seeing the difference there. That right front tire wear was still at 94, right rear at 92, but we brought the temps down a little bit. We're talking, you know, a degree here, but what are we talking? 20 lap run later on. I did think that the 14-to-1 later into the run was more manageable. It didn't feel like it wanted to get as sideways. Again, we were still letting off on entry, things of that nature. So you might try a 16-to-1, but remember, if you use a 16-to-1, if the car starts to go around, it's going to be a lot harder to catch. Some other things to consider with super speedway racing in this car. If you're near the front, well, realistically, if you're anywhere in a group of people and this car gets loose, do not try to correct to the right. Turn it to the left. When you hit the bottom of the banking, you'll feel it kind of straddle and it'll start to catch. Keep turning left, bring it down below that yellow line, get it under control. If you spin out into the grass, at least you didn't wreck your car, you've saved your race, and you don't have a bunch of other people that are mad. I've seen a lot of guys try to correct to the right, and it's the wrong move. It really is, because once this car grabs, you are shooting up the track in front of everybody and into the wall, and your race will be done. So keep that in mind. If it does start to get loose, turn that thing to the bottom. All right, guys, with that being said, that is my track guide to Talladega. I hope it helps everybody. I hope you guys get some green flag runs, get some green flag stops, and have a great time. This is one of my favorite places, even though I've only got one win. I really enjoy it. I know JD McKaylee thinks that this is where dreams go to die, but he's wrong. It can be a lot of fun when you got the right group of guys. So that being said, everybody have a great race week. If you've got any comments, questions, concerns, put them down in the comments section. If you got more direct questions for me, hit me up in the Discord. The link's in the description. And we'll catch you guys at the races.